Hey everyone, it's Night Haro here, and today we're going to be looking at the Ashes of Creation forums and talking about the Freehold updates and their, or rather, their solicitation, their feedback from the community. And we're just going to be kind of talking about it, and I'll be giving my feedback on what I think about these things, and then yeah, we'll go from there. They asked some questions here. We'll talk about that, and I'll also give some of my feedback. So let's just go ahead and start here. The Ashes forums, I recommend if you're into Ashes of Creation and you haven't gone on, come check this out. Give them feedback, and I think that'd be a really great thing to do. And they listen, which is amazing. Most game companies don't. So helpful guide for the conversation, a few thoughts that they had. How do you feel about the size and shape of the inventory management system? I personally, I know a lot of people, or some people at least, don't like it for some reason or didn't like it. I think it's great. Improve bags. We don't want bag space and management to be an issue long term. Absolutely. I think we can all agree on that. I don't think they want that either, but I like it. I like the Tetris kind of thing, the way it's set up. I think it looks good. It's a visual inventory. How they have it set up is funny because that's how a lot of add-ons and a lot of different games end up making the inventory look to a large extent. So I think that's really cool. I like what they did. Yeah, I got no complaints about it. I think it's good. How do you feel about the system or systems shown thus far for planting crops on your freehold? Does anything in particular concern or exciting you regarding this? So, the visuals look great. I like what they got going on. I think be able to make hybrid plants would be really cool, just like you can make hybrid animals. I think that would be really cool. Rare and exotic ones, I'm sure they have something online to be able to do that. My major concern, I said this, when we're watching the live stream, I'm sorry, it's not a live stream, when we're watching the recorded video, is that it's weird that you have to choose between buildings or farming, because farming in real life takes up a lot more room than building. You need a lot more land. And so it's weird to have this potentially one-for-one trade-off of farming area versus buildings. I know it might seem weird or nitpicky, but to me it actually seems like a big deal that it's kind of immersion breaking and that it doesn't really make sense, and it's kind of weird. It feels really gamey and not like natural for that to be the case. I think being able to have crops outside of your freehold proper might make more sense, and kind of being able to, even if you just interspersed it in the trees and stuff like that, it could also make an area where, okay, here's a freehold here and I know I'm getting close or something. It could also make a buffer for like the PvP and no PvP zone, so that, someone can't wait because the freehold is large enough. You could go out on a different area. I don't know. I just think that to me is a little bit weird, and it's weird to choose between a building or crops in the same with the same footprint. It just doesn't make sense to me. Otherwise, I think it's really cool, and I'm really interested, and I think it's going to be really great. So I'm still very positive on it. As I mentioned before, I think that it would be really cool if you could have named food in the game that everybody uses that could come about from in-game action. So let's say that I am the first person to sell Night Haro's vegetable stew or something. I don't know. And hopefully you come with a better name than that. It would be cool if the first person to sell 10,000 of their kind of stew, that becomes like a staple of that area. And so as that area gets upgraded and it gets better improved, it becomes, Night Haro's vegetable stew, and you need to come up with a better name, obviously. Maybe let the player choose a name for it or something. I think having things like that are permanently in the game, and now forever, Night Haro's vegetable stew is a thing, and that came about in-game because someone created this particular product. I think that would be really cool. I think that multiple people could create basically the same product, but then, whoever gets to 10,000 first or something, that's the one, and it gets increased buffs. And so just like in other games where like, oh yeah, use this food for this buff, if it actually had an in-game, in-world name and kind of backstory to go along with it, I think that would be very easy to do relatively, because you're just talking about a name of the food, right? It could have the same effects as other stuff. I think that would be really cool and would add a lot to the immersion. What kind of customization do you want with your freehold or buildings on your freehold? Okay, man. Yeah, I mentioned this before too. So though it's a little bit weird, the dichotomy of choosing. So when I think about having room for a farm and then also having a tavern, I think that having a small area to be able to keep livestock and to grow a small garden for my tavern makes a lot of sense, because then Night Horror's vegetable stew is Night Horror's vegetable stew because I get it. I made it here. I got all the ingredients locally. It's locally sourced. And I think that would be really fun. And you can have, just like with the animal husbandry system where you can crossbreed animals and make something interesting. You know, it could be Night Horror's pig chicken soup or whatever. It doesn't, whatever it is. Obviously we need better names, but something like that. And it makes sense that, like, hey, this food buff gives you this good buff because I take really good care of my animals and I do a really good job of rotating my crops. So therefore I can provide this resource that you want to pay for. I really like that. And if there was actually like a system to it that was difficult enough that not everybody could just do it by default, and then if the buff that you got from it was good enough that people wanted to come there to get it, that's the tricky part, then I think that would be really cool. And again, I really like the idea of it being named, and I like the idea of being able to export it. You know, maybe Night Horror's vegetable soup or whatever gets exported, and so the local node, that's what they use. I think that'd be really cool. So being able to customize and do that kind of thing, I think would be really cool. Maybe that's not exactly with the Freehold. Other customization ideas. I think that some people are going to want to play The Sims. They're going to want to play Farmville, and I would like to, and they want to play NPCs in the game. And I think that something to facilitate that is the main thing that I want. As far as individual things, I don't have a lot of feedback. I'm not super into housing. And so, yeah, I would like there to also be very niche things. Like, I would like there to be a reason, like if you're near an area where there are people are going adventuring and they're coming through your area, it would be really cool if your Freehold was adventuring based and that other places couldn't be adventuring based and still do everything. So I want it to be specialized, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So there's a reason to go to one place and there might be a reason to go to another. And there's a reason to make one kind of Freehold in one given area and a different kind of Freehold in a different area. I think they're already on board with that though, so I don't really think that that's much feedback for them. Is there anything in particular you're excited about regarding what we have shown with the Freehold preview? Oh man, I thought the animals looked amazing. I thought the visual fidelity was really good. I thought the harvesting looked really good, and I think it's only going to get better. And when we see different kinds of animals and animal husbandry that you can do, I think the fact that it's not instance and it's overworld is really cool, and you can just kind of walk in. Yeah, I don't know if that's anything in particular particularly exciting. Oh yeah, one thing I guess I should have mentioned this is I mentioned in the video. I would like it if you could do something so as your Freehold levels up, your buildings get bigger, and your main house needs to be the first thing I think they've said that should get bigger. So you could end up with you start with a 1-story, then a 2-story, maybe a 3-story, and people can kind of see it from farther away. That's really cool. I also think it would be cool if you could do maybe just like one thing that allowed people to see your Freehold from further away and could kind of differentiate it while also fitting in with the environment. So what I mean by this is that there was a tree in the middle of the Freehold, and I thought that was really cool and looked really good. What if that tree could get bigger and bigger? And people could see it like a redwood, and people could see it from far away or something like that. That could be cool. Or maybe you want to do something else, I don't know, like a smoking pillar because, it's mostly for blacksmithing or industrial use. I think that could be interesting as long as it fit in and could be a way of doing something unique or semi-unique for your Freehold to kind of like mark it and set it apart and allow you to kind of customize it and make it look different than everybody else's. Not completely unique, but somewhat more different. Is there anything in particular you're concerned about regarding what was shown with the Freehold preview? I know that a lot of people were concerned with the crafting bag. Again, I don't think it's an issue. I think it's people that don't understand that there already is an auto sort. Or will be, and of course there would be, so that wasn't a concern for me. People are concerned about inventory management and stuff like that. These guys play games. They understand that in inventory management being a problem and being something designed to make you have to buy a sub or something like that is a problem. It's problematic. We don't like it. They don't like it. They're not going to put that in the game. So I don't really have like fears or concerns around that. I'm trying to think of something because negative feedback can be very productive and helpful. Maybe let me just think about it for a second. Cut. Yeah, I do have something. My concern is the PvP and PvPing around Freeholds and people being able to grief and whatever. I think that there should be a safe harbor around a freehold. I think it should be a little bit away so that no one can camp a freehold or cause problems. I also am concerned about the harvesting near a freehold, that it doesn't just become super over harvested, because that would be the natural thing to do, either by players just not caring and just harvesting near there, or something else. If there's nothing interesting to harvest, but the trees still look pretty, that works. But Steven cut down a tree right outside of our freehold. And, if you have a look on your freehold, or if you want it to look pretty and everybody's cutting down all the friggin' trees around it, it's not going to look very pretty. And so that could be a bummer, that you have the freehold, you want it to look a certain way and the area around it to look a certain way. So that could be a bummer. So I could see expanding the area where you can interact, or not interact maybe with the environment without permission, could be cool and could be a good way to do that. It doesn't need to be huge, but if it could be a little bit larger, at least within the immediate visual area, and also large enough that someone could basically sneak away if they were worried about being ganked by somebody or something like that. I think that that'll come through with the testing, but that would be my main concerns about that. And I would appreciate it if they have a plan already to address that. So yeah, I think that's all I got for today. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.